In livestock farming, what isn't measured can't be managed. Identification is the game changer for better breeding, disease control, and business growth. Here at Farming in Africa, we are leading the charge in helping farmers transform their flocks and herds into profitable businesses through proper identification. Let's enjoy this insightful discussion with Farmer Fred. Fred, your impact over the years in the livestock industry has been felt. I just want to ask you, what are the factors you consider towards having a successful livestock business?
Thank you very much, Nadia, and thank you to all of you that are watching us. If I think through our journey, right, we started by just diving into it and saying we wanted to do livestock. There are so many things intentionally we didn't think about, but now after this experience, I will give you the 5 things which we call the 5 pillars of livestock farming here in Farming in Africa.
Okay.
And those pillars, number 1 is genetics. And I think most of you have heard me talk about this. Depending on what you're doing, if you don't have the right genetic for it, you're not going to be able to succeed. So if you're doing meat goat farming and you don't have a meat goat at your farm, then you're not going to be getting the results that you need. And that is why, as most of you know, we've been bringing the meat goats, which is the Boer goat, the Kalaharis, into the continent and West Africa to be able to help farmers get the right genetic that they need. Number 2 is nutrition. So if you have a good genetic and you still do not have a good nutritional plan for that genetic to fulfill its potential, you're still not going to get the best out of that animal. Right, so nutrition becomes the second most important pillar to us, and then the third one is health. Right, as much as we try to feed them well, we know that there are some health precautions that we need to take, medications that we need to have, or health plan that we need to follow in order to protect or prevent some diseases from happening at our farm. So that's the third pillar. And then the fourth pillar to us is management. Management is very important in terms of your staffing, the day-to-day activities at your farm, cleanliness, observation, identification of diseases, and so on and so forth. And I think that is something we take for granted. I've seen people spend thousands of dollars on their livestock and everything, but then they put it in the hands of somebody who doesn't value that investment, right? So mostly the question I ask farmers is, if you have 10,000 cedis, would you give it to this guy that's managing your farm? They're like, no, he's gonna steal it or blah blah. Why are you giving your investment in the hand? So finding the right, staffing, the management, and so on, is very key to that. And then the last one, which is the 5th pillar, is infrastructure. You can have the good breeds and all that, but infrastructure in our case even plays a major role on prevention of diseases, better ventilation, comfort. I'm feeding you, I'm giving you everything, but if you're not in a comfort environment, if they are so crowded in the pen, then you're also not gonna get the best out of them. You're prone to diseases and so on. So infrastructure is key, and sometimes we think we can do things anyhow and still get the best, which is not true. So in the past years, this is basically how we have accumulated all our lessons and how we have been able to get to the level that we've gotten at the moment.
Well, that's great. I like the way you always talk about these 5 key pillars. And I think if you're a livestock farmer watching, or if you're an aspiring livestock farmer, you would do yourself a great service, good one at that, to incorporate these 5 pillars Fred just talked about into your business. Don't worry, go through our previous videos on this channel right here, and you would see that we have videos covering all of these pillars Fred has talked about. Today, I want Fred to throw light on identification. I dare say that it isn't much talked about in the livestock industry space. First of all, is it because it's not that important? And number 2, the 5 pillars you mentioned, identification falls under which one?
Okay.
Yes.
So I want to maybe clarify a little bit when we talk about identification.
Okay.
So identification could be in various ways.
Sure.
Even in management practices, you could talk about identification of diseases.
Yes.
Right? But in your case, I'm guessing you're referring to identification of your livestock.
Yes, the various categories, the breeds. Yeah. So maybe physical identification.
Maybe, sure.
Yeah.
So yes, you're right to say that it is not something that is much talked about or even valued in the livestock industry.
Wow.
But it's very, very critical when you're growing your herd.
Okay.
Right. What is the whole purpose? What are we trying to achieve? I think just like the name says, identify. You want to be able to identify goat A or cattle A. You want to be able to identify cattle B. Yeah, maybe I can identify when there are only 5.
Yeah.
Right. But the moment you step away from 5 to 10 to 12 to 15, 20, it's very hard. So you call somebody and say, is the goat that has like black, hair with like white stripe? And that's how they are trying to identify
the animal.
So there are various ways you could identify your animal, but the moment you start scaling or growing it, then it becomes harder. When it becomes harder, then it causes a lot of issues.
Confusion everywhere.
Exactly. And therefore you asked about which of the 5 pillars does this falls into. I think it falls into all of them. And I'll share a story with you.
Please share.
Which happened like just I think 3 days ago.
Oh, okay.
A farmer came to the shop in the morning and met me at the shop. I had just also walked in, and he was as excited as he was to see me. I was also very excited to see this farmer. So we started talking, and he came with a young gentleman and said, as for us, we are cattle farmers. We've been doing cattle farming since 2 generations. My grandfather was a cattle farmer, my father was, and now I'm also a cattle farmer. But this is my guy who takes care of them. All what he does is cattle farming. He knows everything about it. So I've brought him here to help me choose medications and other things that the cows will need. So I was like, okay, that's exciting. What do you guys need? And then he says, okay, we need some vaccines, we need some dewormers. And I was like, okay, good. When was the last time you dewormed your cattle? And he's like, I'm not sure I remember. And I was like, okay, were they all together, or have you bought new cows, after that? He's like, oh yes, we buy cows all the time. We even bought some last month, blah, blah. I was like, so which of them have you given dewormer to? Which ones haven't you given? And this guy had no clue. So he's here to buy another dewormer drug, right? And he's going to go and give it to a cow that he gave a dewormer
has
to
probably
last month.
been dewormed already.
Right. So, and this is a farmer that say, Fred, you've inspired me so much. Now I actually want to scale and have 200 cows. So right there, I stopped him and I say, before you go into 200 cows, let's make sure you're doing things right.
With this number you
about
have.
20, 30 cows, and then you can scale on it. Right, so now your guy doesn't even know when he dewormed them. Number one, he doesn't know who he has dewormed and who he hasn't. So, and this is just deworming, which sometimes is not as serious as antibiotics and vaccinations. So what I'm trying to say here is, without identification, you start messing up seriously, and without knowing who is who, what you've done what with. And just like humans, if we did not have names, look at the chaos in everything that we will do in life.
Definitely.
Right. So the importance of identification is very key.
Wow. I like something you said, that without identification you start messing up. And I think mess and chaos are the last things we want in livestock business. The next question I would ask is, do we have methods of identification? If we do, with your experience over the years, which ones would you even recommend? Bearing in mind, we are looking at various categories of livestock farmers. Small scale, medium scale, large scale.
So we have various types. I think the most common ones are the tattooing type, and then the tags.
I'm guessing the tattooing is permanent.
Yes, that is permanent. So it happens a lot when you go to the US, in some farms where they do it mostly with cows.
How I found farming in Africa, I was going through my TikTok. The youth now is TikTok. It's TikTok we do it. And I had to Google on goat farm, and then the first search I had was on farming in Africa. And then another friend also recommended farming in Africa to me because he tried to start and then it failed. So he said, "Oh, I looked at these people, so you can also check them out." So I was always watching and watching and watching. So my advice is that as I'm doing, do same. I'm benefiting from it, so I also want you to benefit. So go to their YouTube channel, subscribe. You can have them on TikTok, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, anywhere you want to. Thank you very much.
So it will give it a number. So they've designed the numbers, all the initials, right? And they'll be able to give it to it so that you will be able to know that, okay, this goat or cow came from this farm.
Yes.
Right. So that is a brand that they put on to be able to identify it.
Yes.
So identification can also go in so many different ways.
Yeah.
Like the identification between you and me is you're a lady, I'm a guy.
Yeah.
But then when we go into more guys too, we need something to separate me from all the other guys as well. Right. So that's another level of identification if you're using your initials and stuff. Okay. But then other farms also use numbers, which is then helps in separating them among their own flocks. Yeah. So there is the initial and the number as well, which helps within like the corporate level and then the internal level as well. Yes. So I don't do the tattooing. I haven't seen much of that in West Africa. I think tattooing. It's more in the western part. Okay. What we normally do is the year tagging.
Ear tagging.
Yes. Okay. So we have the year tagging, and the year tagging too. There is I'll call it the manual one, and then there is the chip one. So so there is one that you put a chip, right, and you're able to scan it. So whenever you scan the animal, you're able to get the code.
That's some high-tech level of identification.
Yeah, we do that. I remember the first time I experienced it was actually bringing my dog from the US.
Your dog?
Yes. We had to go put like a chip. Okay. And now we still know where that dog is. I know that dog, has traveled a lot. Now he's back in the US actually. But so there's a chip method to where you put, and then you can scan and get the number. So whenever you're treating the animal or anything, you scan, the number comes, and you put in the details you want to, and that is a way of also.
It's very electronic.
Yes, very electronic as well. That exists. And then the easiest one is the year tag, which is what we use here. And the year tag has two components. So it has the tag itself, and I can show you guys.
All right.
Yeah, two of these. Okay. So it comes in these forms, right? So you have a tag. I don't know if I can open this.
Use the yellow.
Is it open? If you can open that for me.
Yes, please. Yes.
Okay. So I'll take maybe one row.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So this is a tag, right? So there are two types. So there are ones that comes already numbered. Okay. Right. So I've bought some where it was numbered up to 100.
Okay.
And I will basically, use this tag and give to number one goat. It depends on who you classify as one. Is it the first one that came to your farm? Is it the first one that was born even at your farm? Okay. There's so many ways. Yeah. So you use it on them. So you know that, this goat or cow is number one. This goat or cow is number two. This type is not written so that you can write it on
with a
yourself permanent marker. Okay. Right. So that's it. So once you have this, then there's another second piece, which basically goes into it
to lock it and put in place.
Exactly. So then there is the applicator here.
It's called what again?
I think
ear tag
applicator. So you basically put this into it, and then you put it in between the ear and you clip it. Right, so once you clip it, it's made in a way that once it passes through this small knob, it doesn't come out again. So then this is stagnant and will be there forever.
Sounds very much like the earring mechanism.
Yeah.
we ladies use.
Exactly.
So this is what would lock the earring,
Yes,
which is the tag
which
in
is
there.
the tag, and then you use this tool in order to do it. This tool is very cheap, not an expensive thing. You can find it. I'm sure we also have it at the Agro shop. If you guys want some, you can contact us. But yeah, basically you put this into this ear tag, it locks it, and now your goat or cow will go around with a tag, right? So this is the tool that is used, but each farmer has a various ways of how they tag and their mechanism.
Yes.
You know, we have used colors before, where all the females of a certain breed will have one color.
Okay.
Right. So your Boa goat or your West African dwarf females will all be yellow.
Okay.
Right. And then your Boa goats could all be like green. I think we have even red here.
Yes.
Will all be red. Right.
Okay.
Again. So, and then your male.
Yes.
Will also have a different color. So if the male with blue crosses a male with a female with yellow, then we know that their kids is gonna have a different color.
Yes.
Right. So then you do that. The another thing too is that instead of just writing numbers, sometimes we incorporate the numbers with the date of birth, the mother's number, and the kid's actual number. Wow. So one thing I like about these open ones is, let's say for example I have a crossing.
Yeah.
The color will tell me which male is coming from.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Then the first number is gonna be maybe the date it was born, the first two numbers.
Yes.
Then the middle one is gonna be the mom's number. Then the last one is gonna be the kid's number. The last one, the reason why you need a kid's number is, let's say you have 100 cattle in your farm.
Yeah.
You've numbered up to 100. Now one is born.
Yeah.
You have 101.
Yes.
So that kid is now your 101.
Yes.
But you want to know the date that kid was born through by just looking at the tag.
Yeah.
So you put maybe 5.
Yeah.
Right. And now you're looking at the mom's number.
Yes.
The mom is maybe 98. So 98 here. And now the total flock, what number is the kid? 101.
So you are basically saying you like this open canvas tag because it gives you control over what information to put there.
Yes. And that's how I do it. So I look at somebody's tag, I'm able to see how old the animal is. Yeah. I'm able to see who gave birth to this animal. I'm able to see what is the number of our total flock that this animal falls.
Take us back to the application of the tag on their ears. May I ask, does it come with any health implication? Have you personally heard an animal scream out of pain because you were applying the tag?
I think you get, honestly, there's a bit of pain, just like the way we do nose piercing, ear piercing.
So should we be considering anesthesia or something like that?
No, not to that level. I think it's...
clarify that for us.
No, not to that level. It's just a very sharp pain and it's one time. And unless you do not know how to do it. Right? And then there is also a technique of doing it where the ear has veins running through it. So you need to find between a vein. If you put a tag on a vein, then it's actually gonna tear. So you see some cattle, they have like a whole, like,
I've seen that before.
That means that that means that the person who was doing it put it on the vein, and when you put it on the vein, it will tear through. So you have a divided ear.
This actually means that everything you do, you have to have good knowledge on it.
Of course.
You can't just say, yes, I'm a farmer. You've never tried this before and suddenly you want to try.
Yeah, then you pay the price. And that's why we exist, so that people don't have to pay the price.
Definitely.
And this channel,
I love this.
This channel is here to educate people so that in case you even want to do it, you have the knowledge to be able to do it right. Or if not, then you get your local vet, or if you want to contact us to help you do it, whatever, but at least the knowledge exists. So
So in a nutshell, would you advise farmers that they should take identification very seriously, or it's something they can just gloss over?
No, I think they should, and these stocks are also not expensive to buy. It's great. I remember when I did it with my cows, everybody in my town will call them like, the white people's cow, Abrofuna, because hey, no and all that, and it helped in so many ways, in head count, at your farm. Most of you are doing random grazing. Some go, they don't come. How do you know which cattle went? You know, and most of the time we overtrust the herdsmen that are doing it. That they ask for them, they know all cow. But what if they are not there tomorrow? What if they steal from you? So I think the identification helps you to really be able to keep good track of them. In terms of medication treatment. Once you do this, then we can start small by even having a notebook. Well, in the notebook now you write all their numbers and whatever treatment, whatever happened to them, you start writing it. I always say it's time that we start thinking of the livestock industry as a business, right? Instead of just leaving it for, randomly doing anything, not really having an accountability. The actual people that do livestock in the remote villages, they don't even count them. Wow. I remember I went to one herdsman. He's a Fulani man, and I was like, how many cows you have? Oh, I don't know. It's like, why? He says, we don't count. I say, why? He says, it's my property. It's part of my... Do you count how many shirts you have? Do you count how many shoes you have?
I see.
And to them is their way of life. Right, so I think we've gotten to a stage in life or world where we now need to be more conscious and intentional about some of these things to be able to manage and say, how many abortions did I have this? How many kids did I lose this year? How many females do I have to the male? If I have this number of male, how do I sell them now? So that you're really able to manage them and so on and so forth. So I think it's a very important thing for farmers to do.
If there is one thing I have learned from this discussion, it's about how intentional you must be in livestock farming to be able to reap the profits. At the end of the day, Fred keeps saying that it's a business. See it as a business. I would want you to share this because it has to reach other people who are interested just like you. And to comment, you see, I always say that at the end of every discussion, if we didn't address a particular question that comes to mind, put it under the comment section and we will do diligence to that for you. Thank you so much for staying tuned and we shall see you in the next video. Bye-bye.